Hey guys, welcome into the 14. I'm Nick Cole, and we're breaking down all of Week 6's SEC football games from a betting perspective. Today, we're talking about the North Texas Mean Green visiting the Missouri Tigers. This game's going to be played on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time at Faurot Field, and it's going to be televised on SEC Network. From a betting perspective, this game opened as Mizzou with a 20-point favorite, and it's moved slightly as the week's gone on. The Tigers are favored now by 19 points. The over-under in the game opened at 71.5 and has dropped to 69. Bring in our betting analyst, Christopher Smith. Christopher, what do you make of this lone non-conference game of the Week 6 slate?
Well, Nick, it's another opportunity to try to get a game up on you. Think on our best bets. I'm up 7. So, we'll see what we pick for this game, but maybe I can add a little padding to that. But, as they say in the betting world, it doesn't matter the quality of the game. It matters if you can cash or not. So still a great opportunity, even though this is not the most exciting game. It could be just as exciting if you watch this video and end up cashing as a bettor at home. So, Nick, why don't you take us through the weather, the injuries, as well as Nick's news and notes?
Sure. So you noticed that as a result of that terrible week that I had that put you way ahead in our betting competition, that I've resorted to a beach motif for my background. Got a surfboard in the back. Just really been, spending some time in the sunshine, reflecting on my past mistakes. And I feel pretty confident that Week 6 is the week that I'm going to turn it around now. That being said, weather for this game in Columbia, Missouri on Saturday afternoon, we actually got kind of a hot one and a little bit of wind to think about. Temperatures should be in the mid to upper 80s, which this time of year in that part of the country is pretty hot. And the wind is projected to be between 12 and 15 miles an hour. And if you listen to Christopher, he says anything over 10 miles an hour is something you need to start being concerned about when it comes to the total in the game. So that's one to monitor as we get closer to kickoff to see if wind actually will be a factor here. From an injury standpoint, North Texas, let's start there. Their projected starting running back, Oscar Adway III, as well as starting wide receiver Tommy Bush and also starting wide receiver Jair Shorter are all out for this game. That's a big blow to North Texas offense that was going to need every weapon it has in order to make this game competitive. And also backup running back and backup receivers that are questionable for this game. So maybe a little bit of just a depth issue on the offensive side of the ball in general. For Missouri, there are a few more names that we're watching this week. Defensive tackle Darius Robinson may miss his 3rd consecutive game for the Tigers. And if you watch them, they need everybody they can on that defensive front and when it comes to stopping the run specifically. And then also wide receivers Jay Macklin and Mookie Cooper could also be left out of this game as well. News and notes for this one. Let's start first with Mizzou and talk about their no good, very bad day in Week 5. They were hosting a conference game at Faurot Field against the Tennessee Vols, a game that they've kind of become accustomed to trying to win, as they get in their SEC East schedule. And they were rudely greeted by the visiting Volunteers to the tune of a 62-24 loss. When you look at this Mizzou team in this non-conference game, to me, you're looking at a team that is flawed in its defense, but is secure in its ability to move the ball. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like against a North Texas team that comes into the stadium 1-3 with their lone win against FCS Northwestern State. And they're on a 3-game losing streak. That was a Week 1 win, by the way. But they're rested and they're going to be coming off of a bye week. So they're actually coming in fresh, even though they've got some injury concerns that didn't go away just because they didn't play last week. What we know about Coach Seth Littrell for North Texas is that he likes to go fast, similar to how Josh Heupel liked to go fast last week. But the talent is a little bit different on North Texas's team when you're talking about pace than it is with Tennessee. So will that actually work against North Texas? That sort of remains to be seen. I think, Christopher, I'm going to go to you on this, talking about the pace of North Texas's offense. I think you've got some stats that point to this maybe working in Missouri's favor this week.
Yeah, I mentioned on one of the other videos that we did this week that I think despite some heavy competition from other Vanderbilt teams, I think this Vanderbilt team may be the worst SEC team I've seen in my lifetime. And I think you could throw out another hyperbole kind of quote and say that this Missouri rush defense could also possibly be considered one of the worst in my lifetime in the SEC. That's how bad they are. But the good news, if you're a Missouri fan, is Tennessee is 9th in EPA per rush on offense, and North Texas is 89th. And not only are they 89th, but they're missing their starting running back and their third running back, who they were actually planning to use in a role this season. And North Texas, as you mentioned, they lead the nation with 89 offensive snaps per game. And Missouri failed their first test against a high tempo offense in Josh Heupel in Tennessee, but now they're playing the Conference USA version of that, that's banged up and injured on offense 1 week later. So look at North Texas's quarterbacks as well, and they're completing 49% of their passes for 5 yards per attempt. In terms of passer rating, they're 127th in the country despite not playing a tough schedule. So basically, Missouri is going to get some really, really good practice this week defending the run at tempo. This is basically a scrimmage for them to get much more practice at the thing they failed at last week. So in practice, in the game, they're going to be seeing repping out situations that they faced, last week and dealt with in practice last week as well. Now, looking at Missouri on offense, they played, according to SP Plus, Tennessee is 21st on defense. Kentucky is 30th on defense. Even Boston College is 71st on defense. North Texas is 109th. So pretty good class relief there for the Missouri offense as well, which in complementary football, I mean, that's going to help out their defense to a degree. Going from 21st against Tennessee to the 109th defense here. Now, North Texas lost to UAB 40-6, lost to SMU 35-12. Missouri is a very similar team to both of those opponents, according to SP Plus. And if my math is correct, that's a 34-point margin, and that's a 23-point margin in those two games previously. Now, this is a game at Missouri later on in the season. So, Nick, why don't you tell me how you're betting this game and how we're going to get people to the window?
Yeah, sure. So let's start with the side here. I actually like Missouri minus 19 in this game for a couple of the reasons that you pointed out. They're still a very good offensive team, and they got a good glimpse at what they need, even though they didn't execute it at all against the Vols. They understand, I think, what they need to do against a pace like North Texas is going to run defensively. And I think that this week, being it's their second try against a less talented team, I think we'll pass that test. So let's take Missouri and let's lay the 19 points. And then I actually like the under 69 here. And this is mostly just because 69 is a really high total for Missouri to carry almost on their own. If you assume that they make the adjustments they need to make defensively to be just a little bit better, you look at how North Texas has scored against inferior opponents this season so far, and I just don't like their chances of scoring a whole bunch in this game. And we don't have to do much more than force some field goals for most of the afternoon to keep this total under 69. So give me the under and Mizzou. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I think the odds makers with the total inside are kind of telling us that the game that's projected is probably somewhere Missouri scoring in the 40s and North Texas maybe scoring in the 20s, somewhere around there. I do think that's probably about right. I'll lean to the under 69 in this game, just because I do think that the market is probably low on Missouri's offense, but I think for some kind of hidden reasons or reasons that not everybody's looking at, I think maybe we'll get a better performance out of Missouri's defense than people may be expecting here. And I think the side that I probably not going to bet on with my own money, but I would at least consider and sort of a fringe game to make my personal card would be Missouri minus 19. I just think that this is a much, much better situation for Missouri on both sides of the ball. I just think you put all three phases of the game together, and this is a pretty good matchup for Missouri at home. So I'll take Missouri minus 19 under 69, just like Nick. And for Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for the 14, and we'll talk to you next week.